Welcome, everybody, to another Microsoft Unboxed pod. This is episode 104. I'm your host today, Kareem Anderson. I'm joined by
David Allen. Hope everybody is doing well out there. We're doing this a little different time than usual. We're okay. We might seem drunk, but I promise you we are not. I was just teasing my buddy here about what was in his cup on this afternoon. So that's kind of where that come from. For those
it's all water. I was out this morning.
Mine too.
Grass,
Mine too. All water.
I think I just sweat it all out. So I'm about 3 or 4 pounds lighter, but I'm trying to rehydrate so I don't pass out in the pod and prevent you guys from hearing the news from this week. We got a busy Microsoft week. We got a couple headlines that David wanted to discuss, which include Ubisoft and Microsoft are giving gamers an upgrade with their combined experiences, which is always nice. We'll get into that. Another partnership we're seeing is Peacock and YouTube. They're partnering up. And then we'll be talking about Microsoft's big quarterly earnings that happened this week. If you're living under a rock, Microsoft had tremendous numbers. They beat expectations. And in their investors meeting, they said, hey, get used to this because we're going to beat them again. I am here to tell you, as a curmudgeon and perhaps a Paul Thurrott acolyte, these are a facade. We're going to explain why.
Well, I wonder how these thousands of people that have been recently laid off feel about these earnings, you know?
Exactly. As an advocate for them, we're also going to tell you, again, what these mean, despite Microsoft's exuberance about the numbers and the stock, benefiting from that. We're also going to be talking about Microsoft confirming that it's working to make Windows 11 work on 8GB PCs, which seems like table stakes at this point. This shouldn't be something we cover as breaking news or new development. This should have been out of the gate, but they're finally getting around to it. And then lastly, we'll talk about some details from Asha Sharma, Microsoft CEO or head of Microsoft Xbox, and what her next priorities are over the next 12 months. With that being said, I'm going to start rambling and let David unlock our first story.
Sounds good. Our first one, unless you've got them in a different order, is the Ubisoft Xbox partnership. I guess, Asha's at work here. She's trying to bring more value to the Game Pass, and Game Pass, of course, the Game Pass premium subscription, I'm sure. But this move is kind of interesting, and I've always wondered why this was not in place to begin with. Ubisoft and Xbox are giving gamers a major upgrade to a combined experience, delivering more premium content on PC. Now, what that means is if you buy a game on Xbox, the digital version of a game, and in some cases, you buy the premium version of the game, you get access to that game on your PC. So, for example, Assassin's Creed Shadows is available, Star Wars Outlaws, Rainbow Six Siege, which is one of my favorites, Skull and Bones, and Prince of Persia. You also get enhanced versions on your PC of Assassin's Creed Mirage, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, how I'm going to pronounce that. We've got Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, Far Cry 6, Immortals Phoenix Rising, Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown. We've got Raiders Republic, Skull and Bones, The Crew 2, The Crew Motorfest, Rainbow Six Extraction, Rainbow Six Siege, and Watchdog. Your new purchases will automatically unlock the Xbox console and the Xbox PC version. This is done through Ubisoft Connect. Keep that in mind. So what you will do is make sure you've got your Ubisoft Connect account is current and active, and that will connect to your Xbox account inside the Xbox app. Now, I'll tell you from someone with experience, good luck making sure your Ubisoft Connect account connects. That is not as seamless as it needs to be, I don't think. The sign-in process with that's a little quirky, and I figured out kind of what worked for me is to sign out of everything. Before you even touch it, sign out of everything. Xbox app included. Sign into the Xbox app. Do not open your Edge browser. Maybe use Chrome or something like that. I did notice there's some kind of quirk in there. And then sign in to Ubisoft Connect. Once they're both signed in, restart your Xbox app. That also is the trick. And it should see all your titles in there. I finally got mine working properly last night. I kind of had to jump through some of those hoops. So for folks that expect that to be a simple integration, it's not any better than it's always been. So just kind of be prepared to take a few minutes and work with that to get access to those titles. But otherwise, pretty good offering to give you access to the PC titles. Probably something we should have been doing all along with Game Pass, if you ask my opinion. If you got it on one platform, you should have it on the other. That's kind of the play anywhere concept.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know how they were going to fully implement that, but that was something they said a lot of. I don't have much to add to this story, but we'll see where this lands. I know, just for some context, Ubisoft is the arbiter for the Call of Duty deal, or essentially Activision
That's
deal.
right.
They are the third-party steward of keeping Microsoft from being a complete monopoly when it comes to releasing Activision games. Basically, what they have to do is they allow Ubisoft to be Switzerland when it comes to, hey, there's a new Call of Duty game. And Microsoft, instead of saying, we're going to make it exclusive to the Xbox platform, they're saying, hey, we'll stand in line because we're going to every platform that is like Game Pass or PlayStation's version, I forget what it's called, or Operation or Project Luna, whatever these stores are that are going to provide games. Steam is another one. They all have to stand in line, raise their hand saying, hey, Ubisoft, can I have a copy? Here's my money. Microsoft, being technically the owner and creator now, also has to stand in line through Ubisoft. I said all that to say this. I wonder if this partnership, though, starts greasing the wheels for an eventual envelopment. That's always been the meme about Microsoft being the, what was it? Extend, or what there's three things that Microsoft was known for, and they always end with extinction, essentially. Basically, what Microsoft does is they offer you partnership, they copy you, and then they eliminate you. It's the Sherlocking effect. Apple does it very often. But I wonder if they're saying, all right, to circumvent some of this and speed up that 10-year process where Ubisoft can tell us no, we'll just keep making partnerships with them. That's convenient for our gamers. So that's my conspiratorial hat. I'm taking it off. We're going to go into less conspiratorial terms. Here's a short one for you real quick, just as a palate cleanser. Microsoft issued 5 new Windows Insider builds. I know we don't talk very much about that on this podcast. I'm trying to get back to it. That is my fault. I apologize. But you guys are Microsoft squad, so you're probably, for the most part, using Windows. So we're going to try and give you more information about what happens in Windows to keep you guys up to date. We had, like I said, 5 new builds that came out. If you're an insider, and they all went across beta and experimental channels, and they include the 26H1 and future platform branches. All builds included refreshed Window Insider flight certificates, ensuring continued validation for pre-release updates. They weren't necessarily feature-packed. It seems like, I believe, last week's Patch Tuesday build had a lot in there. There was stuff about a lot in the settings, a lot for accessibility, a lot for the file system as well. So go back a build if you want to. If you're not an insider, you would just want to join, go back to the previous build. That's where you get most of the features. If you upload this new one, you'll probably get those. If anybody who's on the insider build 26300.9032, it's apparently a new build that doesn't really have very much, so it's interesting. That must be one of the branches they're going to break off into. But if you are on the builds, here are the 2 new things you can keep an eye out for. Taskbar is now supported. It's multi-positional support, so you can go from the bottom to the left, to the top, to the right of your screen if you wanted to, and put your taskbar there. It gets better touch support gestures and a smaller visual footprint, so you can shrink it down a couple of centimeters. And then the other big one is a hibernation policy. Microsoft updated experimental channel to improve instant on behavior and battery observation. This has been something I believe has plagued Windows forever, especially as they've been doing these 2-in-1s, convertibles, and making things thin and light. Is that you close your lid and Microsoft says, "Nope, not done yet. I look at me. I am the captain now." That's what Windows does to your laptop. You might say, "I'm done. I'm putting it in my backpack. I'm going home." When you open it up, your backpack's on fire and the computer's still running because, again, it says, "Look to me. Look at me, PC user. I am the captain now." It looks like they're trying to update that a little bit in these new builds. So I think it's if you're at over 80%, they will try not to go into hibernation mode. If you're under 10%, it will automatically go into hibernation mode. So just keep that in mind when you're closing your laptop. If you're about 10% or under, it's going to be hard to wake that bad boy up and like a MacBook where you just open it up and jump right in. It'll take it a few minutes, but it's to conserve battery. If you're over 80%, it should go to sleep. Should being the opportune word. You have any thoughts on this one?
Well, I'm glad to see we're working on 10-year-old problems here in 2026. You can move your taskbar. People have been asking for that for many years. And the hibernation issue, why don't we just simplify it? Without picking any options, you close your lid, the thing goes to sleep. How hard is that? Why does Microsoft have to make that? Why do we have to make that so hard?
Again, David, look at me. I am the captain now. That's your PC.
There's a short in that somewhere. I'll make sure I pick that out this week.
Exactly. We can go. I got one more story, then we'll go back to David's.
Okay, what you got?
Microsoft and Windows chief Pavan Duvalori. I said it bad last week. I'll say it again this week. I apologize. So I could actually hear someone say it, I'm going to keep mispronouncing it. Duvalori shared an update on ongoing efforts to fix Windows 11's biggest issue. And they have 4 new priority areas that they're planning to work on to make Windows better. But one of the major ones, the ones I pulled out from the headline to write this story, is that Windows developers and engineers are working on the system working best at 8 gigabytes. We talked about this last week, why this is going to be a necessity as they compete with Mac in the MacBook Neo area. But as RAM becomes more guarded, more tightly issued out to everybody, we're going to start seeing PC shipments starting to standard 8 gigabytes versus the 16 that we so woefully took for granted. They're working on, and before I get your opinion, just to get the updates real quick, it's onboarding and setup is supposed to be faster, so more efficient out of the box experiences for new PC users. Any of you who have seen these people who are, on the YouTubes, they say, I'm going to compare Windows PC to a Mac, and they go through the setup process. Both of them have a setup process. Mac is just infinitely faster, less things to check, and there's less to bring over. There's actually a point, you'll see this in most videos, where they go to set up a Windows PC and they go to set up a Mac. A Mac will get you in and out while it's doing stuff in the background, at least in and out within 5 minutes. Microsoft could take up to 20 minutes to download everything it needs to in order to set up this Windows thing. So I'm assuming that's what they're talking about. There's memory optimizations. Again, this is what we talked about, reducing a Windows 11 memory footprint to so 8 gigabyte devices feel fast and more efficient. They're working on family features, streamline setup, and improve parental controls and family safeties. And again, this goes for when they say parental, you mean IT. That's your mama, that's your daddy, your IT admin. Be nice to them, and they'll be nice to you. But basically, that means that they're going to give them more ways to control, more granular things to shut on and off. And I think that is 1, 2, 3. Missing one. And they're going to modernize the UI is the other thing. Again, they say this every version, but it looks like they're sticking to whatever this new Win UI 3 or whatever is considered versus Metro. They're sticking with it. So at this point, we're not coming with a new design language. We're just going to refine and hopefully see these across all those disparate versions of Windows that are, Windows elements that are out there, like the control panel, even your prompt and registry jump ins and some other, more granular settings are still stuck in Windows Vista, Windows 7 era. Bring those all forward. So what are your thoughts on saying, hey, we're gonna make 8 gigabytes the new 32?
I kind of chuckle at that. I really do. I think a couple things can happen here, and I'm going to keep this as brief as possible. I remember back in the day where having 4 megs of RAM was a big deal, 8 megs of RAM, 16 megs of RAM, etc. And I think we're going to do the same thing in the terms of gigs. 8 gig is going to be, where they want you to be. 16 gigs might be where you prefer to be, and anything above 16 is you got more money than I do. With this RAM crisis we're dealing with. But we had tools back in the day that were software based, and for their time they were pretty good. We had RAM management tools where you could install some software and you could enable what they call RAM compression, and it would kind of make a 4 megabyte machine behave like an 8 gigabyte machine, etc. Then you had, or 8 megabyte machine. I keep trying to say gigabyte where I'm talking in megabytes because this was back in the 90s. Then we had storage was the same way. We had programs like Stacker that would go through and compress your data, and make a 200 megabyte hard drive look like a 400 megabyte hard drive. I think we're going to start seeing some shenanigans here. I don't know what the shenanigans are going to be, but the software engineers are going to, 1, yes, we're going to optimize Windows. 2, we're going to start seeing new types of RAM or new ways to use RAM or more ways to maximize RAM or more ways that you don't need RAM. I mean, we've got to remember we've got SSD drives in some of these machines, and SSD drives are pretty quick. So maybe a 16 gig machine, Windows says, okay, you want a 16 gig machine? You want it to feel like a 16 gig machine? You've got your 8 gigabyte of RAM in there, and we're going to come up with a way to reserve space on your hard drive as RAM if you need it. Kind of what we used to call the old-fashioned swap file. You felt it back in the day when you needed the swap file because the spinning disks were quite a bit slower than RAM. I think Apple does something like this already with memory compression and, where they will kick to storage when you run out of RAM. I had seen some YouTube videos of video editors showing that the Mac Mini does very well on 8 and 16 gig of RAM because of this feature, and you only feel it when it runs out of ways to optimize what you're doing. So we've not seen these features yet in Windows. So again, I think to your point in the last story, Microsoft is watching what Apple does over there with macOS because we're going to borrow this feature. We're going to slide this over here to Windows because you're able to have your Mac Mini running on less hardware and people are not complaining about it. So how can we do that? And I think that's kind of the direction we're going to have to lean into.
I think you're absolutely correct. I also think that out of necessity, because they won't be able to sell as freely 16, 32 gigabytes of supported devices, that they're going to have to say, hey, here's your $8 one, and here it is for $600. And most of all, again, I think beyond the pricing and beyond the headline of gigabytes used, it's the user experience. So, no one's going into the MacBook Neo saying it needs 32 gigabytes because macOS runs really smooth, relatively speaking, on low hardware. So what they focused on was the construction, saying, hey, we're going to give you a premium build and you're going to get essentially a mobile version processor, but it's the same operating system that we've been perfecting for the last 30 something years. And you're not going to say, hey, this device feels slow or doesn't move as quickly as they need because Mac has done fairly well on low RAM. So now Windows is, in order to compete, in order to say, hey, I know prices are getting expensive, you probably can't afford the OLED, tandem OLED / what is that? The anti-glare coating and the futuristic keyboards and the larger battery capacity stuff. You guys can't afford that, but we still need to keep shipping. We still need those numbers to continue to go up. So here's an 8 gigabyte one, and now Windows works better. And people can now say, all right, between picking a MacBook Neo, which again, I was going to go for the experience, I can get a Windows, perhaps that works just as well with what I have in my office. So I think they're doing the right thing. Again, to your point, they should have done this a decade ago, if not longer. This should have been something they nailed down in Windows 8, which, that was the biggest transformational overhaul of the operating system since, Windows 95 or whatever going inward. The fact that they didn't take that as, something to consider, they just kept saying, oh, we can do the RT version, which is the mobile version, and 16 gigabytes would be just fine. Now there's, again, saying 8 gigabytes, new standard. Enough beating a dead horse. Let's talk about Peacock and YouTube.
Yeah, this is pretty interesting. We've got another merger, making your streaming services are going to change on you. So we've got NBC Universal, which is Peacock, in my opinion. Let's just call it Peacock for the sake of talking. NBC Universal is Peacock. So they are merging their content with YouTube. And the reasoning behind this is that it will be the largest distribution agreement to date for Peacock and significantly expands its reach for technology, advertising, and live sports. So essentially what will happen here later this year and early next year is you will start seeing your Peacock programming show up inside of your YouTube Premium subscription. That's kind of the skinny behind it. Peacock Premium will be offered as a standalone or an add-on via YouTube Premium channels as well. So if you're familiar with YouTube Premium channels, I have never used one of them. I have seen them. It's kind of like Amazon, where you can log into Amazon Video or Amazon Prime and you can get like your NBA subscription, your MLB subscription, and you get it all through Amazon and you pay one provider, kind of the pay one provider, get all of it type of deal. So you would be able to get your Peacock Premium subscription through the YouTube Premium channels. And as you're on YouTube, you would then be able to access the Peacock content through YouTube. Now, could be pretty good for some people. I know everybody, myself included, we all fall down that rabbit hole of, the YouTube rabbit hole. So the more they can get in front of our faces while we're in that YouTube rabbit hole, the more we are likely to look at something that is Peacock related. Peacock gets some ads in there. Peacock makes money. So I guess you can kind of see how this works. The more faces we can get our content in front of, the more platforms, the more money we make. And everybody gets access to everybody's technology, advertising, and networks, etc. So I think people are starting to understand the bigger picture here. Everybody's tired of paying for singular services. Everybody's tired of paying for subscription services, period. But I don't think we're at the point where we can do without them necessarily. So the next trick is, let's see if we can combine them and get you to pay a couple dollars more for this one and a couple dollars more for that one. And we'll merge it all together for you. And you can log into one place and watch it all. Sounds a lot like cable TV, doesn't it?
Very much so. I'm going to put here's my hat again. I might as well just leave it on. Tinfoil hat. Going conspiracy on you. Here's conspiracy. And I'm going to take all of that corporate jargon you're saying about the partnership. What this boils down to is we give up. We had our own streaming platform, and apparently you guys weren't using it. So we're going to put it where you actually are. We tried to chase you. We tried to tap you in the shoulder and say, hey, look at us, look at us, look at us. And you guys just kept ignoring us. You were swiping up and down on YouTube. So you know what? We're going to be in YouTube. And going forward, we're going to offload more of our content onto YouTube and let them do all the heavy lifting when it comes to hosting, when it comes to getting subscription fees or whatnot, and all those transactions. Paramount, or Peacock, I suppose, sorry, I apologize, is basically telling its audience, you guys are younger, you're on YouTube, you're on Netflix, you're not going to our app, and you're not paying for cable. We need to get in front of you in order for you to like our businesses and like our property so that we can still continue to make money. And if you're on YouTube, I guess F it, we're on YouTube as well. And that's where I see this at. That's my hat saying younger people are driving it. And this is why, we mentioned a few weeks back that Netflix doesn't see the other streaming services as competition. They see YouTube as competition. I think these streaming services realized that and said, all right, if we can't beat them, let's join them. And if we can't, join Netflix, let's beat them through collectivism. You're going to start potentially seeing the same thing happen, especially with the Ellisons and them taking over CNN and all of their properties will eventually start trickling down into YouTube, I suppose, as well, because YouTube already has the views. They've already done the infrastructure. They've already done the setup. And everyone thought it was going to be a piece of cake after the pandemic when everyone was forced to stay inside to watch these things and that they could just have their own platform and get a bump, which they did because everyone had a lot of time. They had a lot of extra money because they were getting some COVID checks and some things like that. And everyone started signing up for them. Then they realized, to your point from the last story, that, hey, things are becoming expensive. Now they're cutting it down. And YouTube, it just has everything. It has music, and not because it's a music service, just because people film themselves in tutorials on how to play stuff, how to play music, how to play pianos, that kind of stuff. And this is all user generated. Mind you, YouTube doesn't have to pay anybody really for it. They pay influencers, but most people are just putting stuff up there. I was watching a video this morning on how to fix my 4-in-1 tool set, because that they have everything: cooking, politics, sports, video game playing. They have it all. And all these streaming services thought they can do the same. And now they're just saying, you know what, let's just be where everyone's at. That's taking my hat off.
I like your hat there. I think you're I think you're pretty accurate, because unfortunately the downside of this is, there's going to be we've seen the deal with Netflix and Warner Brothers. I saw that they had delayed their merger, or their takeover, or whichever it was going to be. I don't remember how long they had delayed it for, but I think we're going to see a lot of these quote unquote partnership deals, because I hate to say it, it's a good way to fool people too. In the sense of, if we combine services, what happens? You're paying one bill. But if you creep up the cost on each of these, you're paying one bill, but do you notice that you're paying close or similar or even more of the same amount?
Yeah. With that being said, let's get into our next story, which is Microsoft's quarterly earnings. Let me see. Do we have any other smaller stories before that? I don't think so. We did partnership and we did...
I don't think we got anything else.
Yeah, and the Ubisoft thing. All right, so let's just dive in. Like I said, it's a very Microsoft-centric week. I'm going to try and go over this as quickly as I can so we can have our discussion about it. But basically, Microsoft beat expectations, had a gangbuster quarter, and everyone is happy. Stock rose after hours. Again, they weren't as pleased last quarter with Microsoft's numbers, and I'll explain to you why necessarily. But here it is on its face value. Microsoft's core financials, they brought in about $90 billion in revenue. That's 18% higher than last quarter, or year over year, I suppose. Sorry. And they brought in $40.6 billion in operating income in those 3 months. And again, that's also another 18% increase. It brings the, I believe, net income into $35.8 billion for the quarter. So that's, everything taxed off and all of the debt that they have. When you wipe all that stuff away, basically a $35 billion quarter in 3 months. Not bad. And they, again, beat expectations by roughly 13% or so. The cloud, and just to break it down to businesses, the cloud obviously is their big seller because they put everything into it, which also includes Azure, which is, again, the workhorse, and AI, which is, the flight of frenzy that they have. They stuffed that in there, but that business hit around $59.3 billion in Azure growth, and Azure grew about 43% in that quarter. For annual revenue surpassed $100 billion for them for the first time. And I think, again, before we get the Vuvuzela or the air horn out, the real reason is because Anthropic had a $30-something billion infusion in the Microsoft's deal. We'll get into those details in a second. Microsoft 365 Copilot crossed 300 million paid seats, which is pretty good. Enterprise also had a big surge in demand. I think their commercial remaining performance jumped 84% to around $678 billion, which is one of a highlight showing that people are still investing in AI in the cloud, at least from Microsoft's perspective. Productivity in businesses processes, delivered $37.8 billion. Dynamics 365 and LinkedIn were part of that. Steady flow of increase in revenue. The intelligent cloud was a standout segment, which had $39.3 billion. Again, though margins remain heavily pressured by AI infrastructure investment. So for every dollar they're bringing in, they seem to be spending 2 to 3 to build out these data centers to say, all right, instead of getting $1 in the next 3 years, after we spend the $3 that we're exchanging that for, we'll get $5 every time. So what they're basically taking money in and spending it immediately for the future. That's where I said the numbers get a little fuzzy as far as how well they're actually doing. More personal computing is, again, the section we all cheer about because that's the Windows, Xbox. If you're a fan of Bing, Surface laptops. That's exactly. But it's Surface laptops in that business. That was perhaps it's been the drag on the financial docket for quite a while now. I want to say it's gone on almost 3 years. It feels like every subsequent quarter, they keep saying, "Oh, we lost here, we lost here." That particular division declined about 4%. It only brought in $12.9 billion with drops in Windows OEM devices. Again, their partners like Asus, Lenovo, all of them are having issues recalibrating the loss of RAM plus the pricing gap and supply chain demands. Those are hurting them, and it also hurts Microsoft because basically each time a computer is out of their storage or put on a shelf in one of these companies' buildings before they even sell it, they have to pay Microsoft the license for the Windows devices. If they're saying, "Hey, we can't even sell the license that we bought from you guys last quarter, we're waiting to get those off the shelves," they're not going to buy them for next quarter. We got a $3.2 billion gain from Microsoft's Anthropic investment. Like I said, that's the sort of infusion that they got at the very tail end of things. Some of the things that they wanted to offset that Anthropic investment and kind of shuffle the numbers underneath that was that they had I think it was Xbox had a offset charge. I forget the exact amount is, but it's pretty heavy. And I guess this is, accounting for R&D for the next kit that they're making. So the next Xbox, they basically paid forward what they've been spending for an R&D to develop it through this Anthropic deal. So, if they hadn't, you'd see much steeper decline when it comes to more personal computing. That all being said, what are your thoughts before we dive in deeper about Microsoft doing, like I said, relatively well when it comes to what investors are expecting from them?
Microsoft, I'm sorry, but you did well. You did well. You deserve that. You had good cloud investments. Cloud is paying off for you. You've got your Copilot users in there. I'm proud of you for that. But I've got to be the bad guy because it bothers me, and it will always bother me. What I want you to do is take a copy of this earning report and give it to each person that you've laid off in the last, say, year, and ask them how they feel about it. And I would love for, I wouldn't want people's, personal information to get up, but I would love a ballpark figure of we laid off, I'm just going to make some numbers up. We laid off 500 people. Those 500 people made X amount of dollars for a year. Did they make $5 million? Did you pay them $5 million? Did you pay them $1 million? Did you pay them $10 million? Did you pay them $15 million or more or less? Whatever. Figure doesn't matter. And how does that break into your earnings there? Do you really miss that money? Do you really miss it? And I get it. There's folks out there. I can see the comments. David, this is business. You've got to understand we're in this to make money. I understand that. I get that. I follow that. But there's no way to make this look good. When investors are happy with what they saw from Microsoft, and Microsoft met a lot of expectations, but you had to lay off, whatever term you want to use, thousands of people to make that happen. So my question is this: we've recently laid off a lot of people in the Xbox and the gaming divisions. We've done a lot of studio cuts, and we've done a lot of rearranging. So next quarter, are we going, they're already predicting they're going to blow this quarter out of the water. That we're going to do better. We're going to keep this up. Why? Because you fired people? I get it. An investor sees a number. Yay, we made money. But the old business adage is this: at what cost? And I don't like the cost. I'm sorry. I don't. And I'm sorry for getting off tangent there a little bit, but it bothers me when any company, it just so happens that we talk about Microsoft. I'd say the same thing about Apple or Samsung or any of them. It always bothers me when these companies, look how good we did. But you forget what you did to people. You forget what you did to your people to get there. I don't like that feeling. Sorry.
No. By all means, I feel pretty much every bit of what you said. But, like I said, because this is the kind of podcast we're going to let you know that, again, while it was great numbers for them, it was also kind of an issue for them. They are basically burying a lot of their real cost signals. In the earnings call, they said the cloud gross margins were, quote, under pressure. And that's due to, again, AI infrastructure. Basically, they're telling them, like, hey, we need to spend this money to ensure our future. But as you've started to see, there's been a groundswell of questioning AI. At first, we were all kind of amazed by it. Then we're all kind of befuddled by it. Now we're all starting to question what the real costs are. And Microsoft, made a lot of future investments based on people not asking that question. So when people start asking for the real cost, and they start questioning the amount of data centers Microsoft is building out, if they even sustain the set goals in the number of data centers they're going to be able to put out, because they're getting opposition from, political parties, from other lobbyists in different areas as far as agriculture, farming, land reservations, and things like that. They may have overshot what they spend when it comes to real return on investment, real net profit benefit to their investors. The commercial remaining performance, while it was a massive, surge, it's also, again, like I said, they're taking for every dollar that comes in, they're spending 2 or 3 and to ensure, quote unquote, that they'll get 5 in the future. They offset the AI drag with a one-time financial boost, which, again, we talked about in Anthropic, but it also conveniently adds 27 cents to their EPS. Basically, it's a little cushion for your actual stock, the number that you get where it says, hey, you own $230 for every piece of stock. The Anthropic came in and offset that and added 27 cents to that. You might be thinking again, what? That just seems like good business. It is, but it isn't sustainable. This isn't like AI, Anthropic's going to be doing this every quarter. This is one time. So that 27 cents you just earned for this quarter, go spend it quickly because it won't be there in 3 months. They also spent an enormous amount of time in the earnings call beating up on the segment we all love, but for good reason. Again, mobile personal computing is down 4%. They're basically saying this is part of the reason why, if you're seeing anything in the periphery about AI saying, hey, that's dragging down that sector of your business. No. It was Xbox, more personal computing, Windows licenses. They affected that. Don't look over at the AI. Don't look. It's these bad guys. Because again, they are genuinely bad, but if you were to start adding up their badness plus the badness in AI that people are looking at over there on the peripheral, it looks even worse. They also are, basically saying that their new mantra is cost to overcome curve, and efficiency gains are kind of the things he's been saying over and over. again, that's all basically saying, give us more, give us $1 and we'll spend $2 to invest that you get $5 in the future. And people are still giving the money because they're waiting for the $5 to come. Right now, we're in the phase of they're taking the $1 and they've already spent it. And they've already spent their reserves on other things. Now they're waiting for the $5 to come, which is when people start saying, AI, we get it. Now we will pay for it. There's no indication that people en masse are going to start saying that. So good on them for being a business, bad on them for being a business that, again, has the livelihoods of so many people in their hands, and they discard it, which, such cold business efficiency, and saying, hey, you might have worked here for 17 years, but you got to go because you're not part of AI. We are starting to see, anecdotally speaking, in a different tangent, that a lot of companies that laid off people are now asking, not necessarily the same people, but they're asking people to come back to work, saying, hey, we tried the AI experiment. It just was more work than necessary. You were in here data processing. You've been with that company for 5 years. You know the intricacies. And when a customer or client comes in and says, hey, at the last minute, I need to make a change, AI, has no idea what to do with it. They don't anticipate it because they're not a human. They don't speak with the clients, one-to-one, or companies use them to get rid of what they thought were middlemen. And it turns out some of those middlemen actually served a purpose. So now, I think, I'm trying to think of the name. Was it Uber? Might have been Uber. Might have been another company that basically laid off a ton of people and was saying, hey, can you guys start coming back to work? Because the experiment didn't work out. What are your thoughts to close it up?
We're in an interesting place here to where we're at decision-making time, I think, as to what AI is going to be, who's going to use it, how much of it we're going to have, and what it's going to cost us, and what revenue can we make off of it, and who do we need to sell it to? Because I don't want to say it. Not everybody wants it. First of all, let me break it down slowly. Not everybody wants it, first of all. Not everybody knows how to use it, second of all. Third, a lot of people are just going to be stuck in their ways. They're going to go to google.com or, bless their hearts, bing.com. And, they're going to search whatever it is they're looking for. And, they're going to read that AI result that you get now or scroll down and look for links to click. AI was something that we fell on top of, and everybody started throwing darts at the wall. Let's put AI in everything because this is the next thing that's going to make money. We're at that point where numbers, money have they're out. This is what you got. This is what you got to deal with. This is how many people is using it. This is what it's costing us. You see what it's doing. We've got to factor in what consumers want as far as data centers, which people have largely pushed against at this point. I think this is why we're seeing Copilot change. Copilot removes things. I talked about it last week. Copilot is removing some of the deep research off of the quote unquote free plan. And it's moving back to the upgraded plans. So, and RAM and hard drives and all that good stuff factors into this. So we're at that crossroads where we're going to have to see where the heck are we going and how do we get there? Because something you said to me years ago on a podcast came to mind. One of the first podcasts me and you did together. Features come out for business. Software comes out for business. And at some point, the decision is made that it might be viable for consumers, and it gets trickled down, or a version of it gets trickled down. We kind of did AI the opposite. Throw it at everybody and see who grabs it. We didn't throw it at business first, and business said, consumers might like parts of this, but they're not going to like parts of the other. Nope. We just got out the old big old dart bag. We put dartboards all over the walls, and we just started throwing things. And we're still throwing things. We're still throwing those darts.
Yeah.
And you and I are in tech. I'm going to say it. Dang it. I'm confused because you log into a service, connect this, connect that, connect this, connect that, this MCP, that MCP, connect this agent, connect that agent. My head is spinning. I came to your service to solve a problem or create something or get a benefit or whatever. I don't understand all the lingo on the side here that you want me to connect this, pay for that. Dang it, Kareem, we got to fix it.
Well, I put up this picture right here because this is actually, I believe it's AI generated, but I saw it on Thorat's site. And what it is, for those of you who are listening to the pod, it's Satya Nadella in the show me the money phase is yelling. But the way Paul has it described, and it's very apt, it's basically hide me the money. He's telling, this is him telling investors, or I guess his senior executive company or corporate, lobby, or the section of corporate executives in the business, before they go into these earning calls, figure out a way to hide the money or what it's costing in reality. And I do agree with this AI image, ironically, built that to display Satya Nadella saying, hide me the money, because that's what these earning reports feel like. They, while the numbers seem high and they seem like a real get-go, where is it? We're in AI. And last thing I want to say in this, and we'll move on to our last few topics. You've noticed that every company is saying that they put AI in stuff, but they're not offering new stuff. When was the last time Microsoft offered something like Office, offered something like Windows?
Yep, you're right. Where I want one. Yep.
Yeah, right, they're just putting AI in their current stuff, which means a lot of these companies have spent the last 3 years not innovating. You might say, they're innovating with AI. Again, AI is a tool like spell check that they're throwing into. So again, if you have Word docs and you're like, I'm using Grammarly, that's not something Microsoft did to make it better. That's just a spell check that has more advanced syntax and be able to detect tone and stuff. But ultimately, Windows is still Windows and Word is still Word and Azure is still Azure. And those are the big three. And Microsoft doesn't seem to be innovating on those and making those better. They're just throwing AI into it, or what they consider large language models, to basically make the things that you do in it move a little bit faster. And if you want to call that innovation, that's great, but it isn't. It feels like it's an evolution. Same thing with Apple. Mac OS isn't getting better. It's just getting AI. And iOS, the same thing. The Google Spectre going forward. Like, Google Ads is still a mess. They're not very good, but it's one of their platforms that they make a ton of money with. They're not innovating on it. They're spending their time making these AI first Chromebook things. And again, not innovation, evolution. Chrome OS and this, aluminium share the exact same backbone. So just keep that in mind when everyone keeps telling you like, AI is going to revolutionize things. These companies have all, for the last 2 to 3 years, let AI take the wheel. And now, we are as customers suffering for it because we're getting less innovation, to be honest with you. Okay, last topic, and then we'll get into gaming and get you guys out of here. Speaking of which, Xbox CEO details 4 new priorities for the next 12 months. And if you're like me, you may be getting tired of her talking. And I say that with the utmost respect, and I want to give her the longest runway I can. But saying all the things you want to do and not doing them yet is starting to wear thin on me. And that's just me personally, but let's hear her out.
I'm feeling
For fiscal year 2026, quarter 4, we saw the decline, 10% decline year over year. But Asha started in, February-ish? The new Xbox CEO issued a memo outlining 4 strategic priorities for the next 12 months. Core, strengthening the console platform; content, expanding franchises; creation, turn Minecraft into a global creator platform; and connection, deepening fan engagement. Those are the 4 C's that she wants to emphasize going into the rest of this year. Again, these are all noble pursuits, but they aren't concrete and they don't change the way that Microsoft is presently gaming. Yes, you are going to try and push for changing the console platform. I don't know how you do that without getting away from this current platform and starting anew. So you're waiting at least until 2028 or whenever the next Xbox console is to reinforce that. And they've also raised prices on the console. So I don't see people going out and buying more of their failed console that they weren't selling before. Content, expanding the franchises. That seems laughable after you've cut so many studios and fired so many people, but we'll take you at your word. And then curation, turning Minecraft into a global creator platform. It already is that. Minecraft is one of the more beloved properties out there. Now, when you say global, I don't know, maybe Minecraft isn't picked up in Japan, but I feel like there are kids in Japan who play Minecraft. Maybe they don't play it as much as...
I think there is.
Yeah. So that's an easy one. You've set the bar low for that. Good on you. Maybe that'll be the first thing you deliver. Last one, connection, deepening fan engagement. This is going to be the hardest thing for you to do when everything you've done so far has pushed fans away to a certain extent. You fired people, you've gotten rid of studios. Those are the two main components to gaming, people and the games. And you're saying we don't need those. So what are your thoughts on these 4 pillars from after my cynical take? I didn't mean to sway you if you had a different opinion.
No, you actually, I want to take a baseball bat and start swinging because I'm a gamer. I'm a gamer, and we also report. But Phil Spencer is kind of guilty of a similar approach. What's the old saying? Never overpromise and underdeliver, because you always tick the consumer off. And this is what's happening right now with gamers. I'm with you. I'm tired. I mean, but choose my words carefully here.
Easy now. There might be kids listening.
I'm tired of the talk. You just made billions of dollars as a company. There's no reason you can't hire people, hire developers, hire marketing, whatever it is you need. It kind of the reason I say it kind of goes back to Phil was we've reached a point with Xbox where it's lip service. That's exactly what it feels like as a consumer. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. This is coming. Hang in there with us. We're going to fix it. I don't have a lot of patience for a multi-billion-dollar company that continues to tell me month after month, year after year that you're going to fix it. I expect you to use your resources, take action, and fix the problem. End of story. And I hate to be cruel or mean to Asha. She just took the position. But she made the choice when she took the position to come out with these lofty goals. She could have calmed down and maybe not spoke as broadly or as enthusiastic about making these changes and said, I got to get my feet on the ground to really figure out what we need to do here. I can turn this ship around, but I need to get my feet on the ground. But she immediately went to gamers in a positive way when she dropped the Game Pass Ultimate price from $29.99 to $22.99. All right, but she did that kind of tongue in cheek, because when she did that, she threw the Call of Duty releases out. So, she made one group happy, she upset another group. Asha, I've never spoken to you. We've never had interaction. Maybe one day that's possible, but gamers expect results. And right now, gamers aren't getting them. Gamers are upset. I, as a gamer, am upset. So stop talking. Start doing. Results will always be king.
Yeah, no, I couldn't have said it better, and I won't. So we're going to move on to the next one. That was awesome. Ironically speaking, our next and last topic is game days. Free play game days from Microsoft. That's the one you usually get a kick out of. I'm going to let you take it from there.
I do, and we always save this one for last. I'm going to say it while I'm on the topic and still a little high strung. If she starts messing with free play days, I'm going to be mad.
All right, you've gotten your warning, Asha. Hands off.
I think we get a lot of it when these don't get done, even if they don't always get done immediately when they come out. I usually get an email or something from somebody going, "Hey, you missed free play days." So there are people out there that use these. So let's kind of jump into what we have this weekend. We've got 3 titles this weekend. We've got any subscription level can play Poltergeist Possession Party. From July 1st to August 2nd, you can dive into this mischievous 8-player ghost brawler where you possess everyday object sabotage for your rivals and let me make sure I say this right, monster hunting everyone down. Optimized for Windows, optimized for smart delivery, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S. Interesting game. I played that one on another free play days. I'm going to try that one out again. Now, if you don't have a membership, see that this is where she's giving back a little bit. If you don't have a membership, you can try out WWE 2K26, which is what we say down south. It's a wrestling game, so you can go wrestling, which I think there's a big WWE pay-per-view this weekend. I saw something about it on the internet this morning, so I'm sure that might be why 2K26 got thrown into free play days this weekend. That would be a good move. And then you've got Wildgate, which is a PvP and a PvE shooter featuring 3 modes of Artifact Brawl, Fleet Battle, and Treasure Hunt. This one looks pretty interesting. You can have 12-on-12 combat. You can grab the artifact and escape and wipe out your rival crews, and the old-fashioned treasure hunt approach. You can loot, survive, and escape before someone blows you up. That sounds interesting to me. So maybe I need to work out some of my Microsoft gaming aggression on WWE 2K26, and then maybe I can kind of calm it down and play some Wildgate a little bit, and maybe give that a go, and go back up there and grab Poltergeist and give that a go. Now, I'm going to remind you folks, go to xbox.com to download these. That's the easy way. Unfortunately, it's not as easy on your console. Hey, Asha, can we fix this, please? You have to open up your account on your console. You have to go down to your membership, your Game Pass subscription, then slide down to free play days, and you'll find these listed there. So for me, it's just easy to go to xbox.com, type it in, hit download, and away we go. If you're enjoying these, make sure you get your discounts. They always run discounts on these during free play days. So for example, Wildgate is discounted to $23.99. WWE 2K26 is $34.99. I can tell you that's a pretty good discount. That's usually a $69 game. And Poltergeist Possession Party is just $4.99. So if you like Poltergeist, hey, for $5, maybe even in this economy, you can afford to buy a game and help a studio out. Pretty good little selection there for 3 games. I know, have you played any of these yet? And if not, do you plan to play any of them?
I do plan to actually play all of them. I like the art style for Wildgate and for Poltergeist. Poltergeist feels like if you were a mischievous toy, i.e., anybody that was in what was that kid's name? In Toy Story, the one that tortured the kids. That starts with the Z, I think.
Oh shoot! I can see it.
Anyway,
I'm gonna have to call a mulligan on that one.
That kid, it feels like if you were the toys in his room. That's the gameplay feel that you're getting. So, again, you're playing, looks like toys, but in a very twisted area. Could be fun if you are a child at heart. If you just like playing tortured toys. Wildgate looks fun. It reminds me of a more arcade-ish version of No Man's Sky, and what was the Microsoft version of that? The one that came out a couple years ago.
I'm familiar with No Man's Sky, but I can not think of the Microsoft version.
Nevertheless, and that's indicative on how Microsoft has marketed that game, because I feel like everyone should like that one because it's good. But anyway, it feels like that. If you were looking into a much faster pace, perhaps less arduous journey from planet to planet. You just want to get in and start shooting stuff, fixing things, but still have that level of freedom. It looks like that this is the game. I was thrown, actually, from one of the scenes. They show him leaping, one of the characters, first person, leaping from ship to ship. And I forget, again, there's no gravity in space. So it's just a straight line. I kept waiting for him to like arch and land and stuff. Like, no. Once you launch from any spot, you're just going to go straight and continue going straight at that exact same speed and momentum because, again, there's no gravity. So I do wonder how many times I'm going to miss a ship this weekend when I try and take it over. So I'm looking forward to that. I used to play the WWE. Exactly. Overshot by 2 miles. I used to play games, the WWE, WWF, NWO cartridge games from the N64.
I did too.
That may have been the last time I played, but it looks like not too much has changed as far as the mechanics. The guys are still kind of robotic, but the graphics are much more improved. So I'm going to try and get a kick out of that this weekend as well, recreate the Royal Rumble or whatnot. So I'm going to try all three, see if I have enough time to play all three of them. I'm also going to be watching TV. Where can people find you, though, if they want to talk with you, chat with you, hang out with you, and play this weekend?
David PAJ 1978 over on the Blue Sky. Jump over there, say hello. Speaking of wrestling, I may turn on the old pay-per-view tonight and see how good or bad wrestling has gotten since, we went through those growing up ages of wrestling and playing the N64. But if wrestling is bad, I'll be gaming, which you can probably count on me gaming. If wrestling was to be good and ends early, I will also be gaming. So tonight, tomorrow, I'll be doing something. I think we've got some weather moving in here, so... It's like you mentioned early in the podcast, it's just too darn hot to be outside doing a whole lot. So I think I'm going to be gaming, kind of maybe chilling out with some good snacks, enjoying some good food, watching some things on some TV. You might find me gaming on a handheld. That's what, they want me to do with it. Maybe gaming on the handheld, but for the rest of the weekend, I think I'm going to try to relax and game, eat, and content.
Those sound like excellent ideas. I may do exactly the same. The game we were talking about is Starfield. Now I looked it up.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Man.
So if you're a fan of that,
Microsoft, you did a bad job there because they gave that game a 30-minute show to itself.
I mean, it's fun. I played it. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, they haven't marketed it since, which they should. You can find me at Happy Hulk or at Blue Sky at Happy Hulk, or you can find me at Happy Hulk 1 on Threads. Where I will be talking probably about movies and TV shows for the most part. I caught up on X-Men 97, which, again, I would love to rant with anybody about. I love that show. I'm going to try and go see Spider-Man this weekend. So if I don't see it tonight, I might go see it tomorrow. So I'll be talking about that. Hopefully spoiler-free until people can see it next week. Get a whole week's behind us. I'm also going to be probably reading some comics and laying on the couch with some snacks, too, when I'm not gaming. So you guys find us there. If your weather is great, go outside, enjoy it. If it's not, stay indoors and enjoy inside. Being inside for a little while. There's nothing wrong with that. Turn the AC on, grab your favorite cup of tea, coffee, soda, whatever it is you drink. Enjoy that. Catch up on a show. See if it's worth putting Peacock on YouTube, or if you want to pay for 2 separate apps, this week can be a good time to explore that. We will see you guys next week. Thank you for joining us. Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend, folks. Enjoyed it. Thank you much.